Good evening. I hope I'm audible. And let's quickly start with today's session.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. We'll start with today's session and we'll begin with a short prayer.
सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति
Thank you so much for joining into the prayer. And now we shall begin with today's session. One more time, a very good evening to one and all present here. And we are now going to begin with the session that is planned for today. It is exactly 5:31 p.m. And I welcome every one of you into today's session. And I truly hope my screen is visible to every one of you. So let's begin. Now today our topic is going to be globes and maps. It's a very important conceptual topic from grade 6 geography. And I hope that all the participants who've joined us have come in with a notepad and a pen as we had discussed in the previous session. So while we talk about geography, we need to understand that the term geography has been derived from two basic words, geo plus graphy. Geo stands for the earth and graphy for description. So geography stands for a description of the earth. Now, just in case you are making notes, I would request you to make notes simultaneously, as otherwise it may become very, very difficult. So geography comes from two words, geo plus graphy, which is a description of the earth. And as you can see in the diagram drawn there, when we talk about the earth, we talk about the interior, the surface, and the surrounding. The surrounding is what you can see over here in the red line. And over here in the image, you can see Eratosthenes, who is known as the father of geography. Eratosthenes is also called the father of geography. Now, India has been known by different names over different periods. This term India has been given by the Greeks. And we know that Megasthenes in his work Indica has given us this name India. The word Hindustan has come or has been given to us by the Persians. Aryavarta or the land of the Aryans, as we know this word comes from. Bharat is named after King Bharat. And there's one more name that we find in the Puranas, which is called Jambudvip. And all of these are names of India. So we have India, which is given to us by the Greeks, Hindustan by the Persians, Aryavart, or the land of the Aryans, Bharat, named after King Bharat, and Jambudvip, the name that we find in the Puranas. Coming to our main topic for today, we have map and its components. Now, for the map, we need to understand that it is a representation or a drawing of some area. It could be a small area like a village or a town, or a big area like a district, a state, a country, or a continent, or the entire world. So in a map, you look at the surface as if you're viewing the map from top. And when you collect a whole lot of maps of different kinds and put them in a book, it's called an atlas. So you have a map, which is a representation or drawing of some area of the globe on a flat paper, on a flat surface or a flat paper. It could be a small village to a small area, to a district, a town, a country, a continent, or the whole world. And a collection of all kinds of maps is called an atlas. So you would have noted down this much. Moving ahead, we have three types of maps that we look at. Number one, we have a physical map. Number two is a political map. And number three is a thematic map. And you can see all three kinds of maps here. However, we will also be looking at them slightly more in detail as I explain them. So when you are talking about natural features like mountains, plateaus, oceans, rivers, you would mark them on a physical map. On a political map, you would see countries or states with boundaries, states and union territories, and thematic maps include specific topics for the map, like maybe a population map, or you wanted to look at all the natural vegetation found in a particular country, or the rainfall of a particular country, then you would look for a thematic map. Thematic is based on a particular theme. So when we talk about a physical map, we see color codes on a physical map, where we know that whenever you see a brown color, it stands for a mountain. When you see a yellow color, it stands for a plateau. The green color stands for plains, and the blue color which you would see would stand for water bodies. Brown for the mountains, yellow for the plateau, green for the plains, and blue for water bodies. Now you look at this, a political map, which shows you states, capitals, and boundaries between states and countries. So here you can see that over here, if you can see where the mouse is pointing, you can see this is the boundary of India shared by China, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Afghanistan. You can see here Sri Lanka, there's Bangladesh, there's Bhutan, there's Nepal, there's Myanmar. You can see that's an international boundary of India. And in between states, you can see a different kind of a boundary, which is the separating one state from the other. So a political map would normally show you these states marked and the boundaries marked. Only the labeling would normally be done by the student. Then, like I told you, thematic maps, they are basically maps with a certain purpose. So you're looking for only one thing in one thematic map. So here I'm showing you map of the population of India. But you may want to check the map of the rainfall, or you may want to check the wildlife map, how many national parks and wildlife sanctuaries and bird sanctuaries we have. Or you may want to check the airports and seaports of India. So each of these themes, like we go for a theme party, we have a Christmas party, or we have a Halloween party, or we have a Diwali party. So like that, we have themes in every party. Similarly, here when each map comes with a theme, it's called a thematic map. Now, each map has components. There are only 3 components in a map: distance, direction, and symbol. A map will have only 3 components: distance, direction, and symbol. But before we move to the details of each of those maps, there's one important thing we need to know. Maps could be small scale or large scale. Small scale maps are when you're trying to show too many things on one map. So if I want to show the whole world in one map, I would have to make it small scale. But in the world, if I want to show only Delhi, I would make a large scale map of Delhi and show only Delhi with whatever I need to show in Delhi. The districts of Delhi, the roads of Delhi, the kind of settlements that Delhi has, the water bodies that pass through Delhi, or the dams that may be in Delhi, or some important monuments of Delhi. I can show all of that in Delhi if my map is only of Delhi. So that would be a large scale map of Delhi, but a small scale map of the world would only have a dot called Delhi. In the map, we also need to know that we have something called cardinal points. Cardinal points are only 4: north, south, east, and west, which you would normally find on a compass, right? There are only 4 cardinal points: north, south, east, and west. Simple to remember them would be a short form, an anecdote, or an acronym that you would want to know it as, and we would call it news. North, east, west, south. News. That's the simplest acronym. You could remember the 4 cardinal directions. And if you go to see, we have intermediate directions. These lines that you can see here, these are your intermediate directions. The one between north and east is called northeast. The one between south and east is called southeast. The one between south and west is called southwest. And between north and west, you have northwest. So we have 4 directions: north, south, to the right will be east, to the left will be west. Short form to remember them: news, north, east, west, south. Intermediate directions or intermediate points: between north and east, northeast; between south and east, southeast; between south and west, southwest; between west and north, northwest. Easy to remember? Great. So I'll just remove this and then we'll proceed. Now with the map, like I told you, there are 3 components. You have distance, symbol, and distance, symbol, and anyone in the chat? What were the 3 components of Sorry, you can mention
Direction, ma'am.
directions. Beautiful. So we've done two. One would be the scale, which is the distance. It is helping you measure the places. One would be direction, which is the four directions, the cardinal points and the intermediate line. And now we come to symbols. These are basically called conventional symbols. No matter where you go in the world, a railway line would be marked like this only. A metal road or an unmetal road would be marked in this manner. International boundaries, state boundaries, district boundaries would be marked in this manner. Rivers, wells, tanks, canals, bridges would be marked this way. Temple, church, mosque, chhatri, which you would normally find in Rajasthan, would be marked this way. A post office or a post and telegraph office or a police station would be written with alphabet. A graveyard would have those three upturned U's. And a settlement would be these red dots, the red squares that you can see. Trees would be these and grass would be green. So these are basically called conventional signs, and across the world they are universally accepted. Now this is the globe. And while we are looking at the globe, we need to understand that this point of the globe, like let me show you one more time. It's this part of the globe that is called your North Pole. And it is at 90 degrees north. The point exactly below it, which you are not able to see because the globe is tilted, will be 90 degrees south or the South Pole. It's a point. This red line, which is currently crossing the globe, okay, is your equator, this one, this red line. This is called 0-degree latitude. Now, this brings us to a very important question. How do we know what is a latitude and what is a longitude? Tricks are simple and easy to remember. A line that goes like this, okay, any line that goes like this. Letna, latitude. These are parallel lines. They do not meet anywhere. And longitudes are standing lines. They run like this. You can see them on the globe over there. They run like this. They are long lines, so they are called longitudes. They meet at the poles. And all lines of latitude and longitude are curved lines, whether they are lating, whether they are sleeping, or they are standing. The standing lines will have a bulge like the globe. Right? What is the shape of the globe? It is spherical in shape, a sphere, but it is called geoid. Why is it called a geoid? I'll write the spelling, so some of us may need to know. I'll write the spelling of the word geoid for you. A geoid. The earth is in the shape of a geoid. Geoid is where it is bulging on the sides and is a little flat at the poles. I'm glad to find some chat. Let me just check. I'll take it on the side. Yes. I can see a lot of people writing the name of the shape there in the chat. Thank you very much, Zainab ma'am and friends. So it is a very nice shape. It is nice and bulging at the side and a little flat at the poles. And remember, when we count latitudes from 0 degrees as you go up, 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 there are 90 degrees of latitude. From 0 degrees, when you go down, 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 there are another 90 degrees of latitude. But the catch is when you are counting the lines. If you count 90 degrees up and 90 degrees down, how many degrees do we get? Mention it in the chat. Wonderful. I can see the chat moving. When you count 90 degrees up and 90 degrees down, it is 180 degrees. But when you're counting the lines of latitude, like Zainab ma'am says, it is 179 degrees. Why 179 degrees? 90 degree north and 90 degree south is a point. It is not a line. So you cannot count it in the lines of latitude. Right? That please make a note, like I have been telling you. If you write along in your notebooks, you will really be able to remember it. And it will help you understand things very clearly. So let's proceed to the next thing. Now, facts about latitudes. A quick recap of what we know. Latitudes are firstly imaginary lines. They are parallel, latna, parallel, will run in an east-west direction. They measure the distance north of the equator and south of the equator. Therefore, they are called latitudes. Remember, and when you write them also, you will write them as north or south of the equator. Never will you write latitude as just a degree. We don't write 10 degrees. We write 10 degrees north or 10 degrees south. Because the latitudes are measured north or south of the equator. They cross the prime meridian at right angles. I will show you the prime meridian. They lie in planes that cross the Earth's axis at right angles. So wherever there is an axis of the Earth, there will be a right angle. Get shorter. So as we move towards the North Pole, the lines of latitude become shorter in size because the globe also starts narrowing. Like I told you, it's nice and bulging at the center. And as it goes up, it starts narrowing. So as the lines of latitude also become shorter. You can see it here in the diagram. But equator is the longest latitude. Now, when you look at the next thing that is coming up, it is called the longitude. And again, it's a quick recap of the longitude. Longitudes are called meridians. I told you they are long lines, therefore they are called meridians. They run from north to south. They touch the North Pole. They join at the North Pole. They touch the South Pole. They join at the South Pole. They measure the distance east or west of the prime meridian. And as you can see here, the prime meridian is your 0 degree longitude. Look at this. The prime meridian, this red line, is your 0 degrees longitude. And 0 degree latitude will be the equator. So when we are measuring the longitudes, we will write 0 degrees east, or sorry, not 0, but 10 degrees east or 10 degrees west of the prime meridian. Just as latitudes cross the prime meridian at right angles, longitudes cross the equator at right angles. Both longitudes and latitudes lie in the plane of the Earth's axis. However, longitudes are equal in length and they are halves of the great circle. Why? We have 180 degree longitudes going from 0 degrees to the other side on the east, and we have 180 degrees longitudes from 0 degrees to the west. So we have 360 degrees of longitudes. So I have another one here. Let me just end this annotation and we can move ahead. Yes. So while 1 minute, just a minute. Sorry, I was just checking on something different, but nonetheless, we shall start. My apologies. This is what we did last, and now we see the prime meridian. I told you it's called the 0 degrees longitude. Be very, very careful. It divides the entire earth into two halves, east and west. Exactly on the other side of the prime meridian at 180-degree longitude, you have the international date line. Right? So 180 degrees you have west, 180 degrees east. Now you can see these spheres. This shows how the prime meridian divides the earth into east and west, while the equator divides the earth into north and south. So the first diagram that you see is of the Greenwich meridian or the 0 degree longitude, which is the prime meridian, and the 0 degree latitude, which is your equator in the first diagram. In the second diagram, you can see the 0 degree longitude or the Greenwich meridian dividing the earth into two standing parts, into the western hemisphere and the eastern hemisphere. And in the third diagram, you're able to see 0 degree latitude dividing the earth into the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. So look at this now. The Greenwich meridian is not the first prime meridian. In the previous years, there were, like many, many centuries before Europe, India had a prime meridian of its own. And this prime meridian was called Madhya Rekha or the middle line. It passed through Ujjaini or Ujjain as we call today. And Ujjain was a very, very reputed center of astronomy for many, many centuries. And Varamihir, a very, very famous astronomer, lived there and worked there. And it was something like 1500 years ago that this line was the Madhya Rekha, the Indian prime meridian in Ujjain. But then Indian astronomers were aware of concepts of latitude and longitude. We also had a zero. Then we had Ujjaini becoming the meridian, a reference for calculations in all Indian astronomical texts. So something that India can be proud of. Also, don't forget, this is a very, very important concept from your examination point of view. So you can see Ujjaini over here. Right over here, we have Ujjaini. 75 degrees, 8 minutes east is the longitude of Ujjaini. There are many places which are very, very close to Ujjaini. However, Ujjaini and Mahishmati or Maheshwar both seem to be falling around. Mahishmati is also just a little away from this longitude, but it is close by. You can see the other places which are almost close to the same longitude. But this was done away with because it required accuracy in timekeeping. And in those days, it was not as accurate as it was or as it is today. Hence, this meridian of Ujjaini was done away with. And today we have our own Indian Standard Time meridian, which is at 82.5 degrees east. 82 degrees, 30 minutes east. So I have shown you this, but a clearer diagram that I find. You move 1 to 179 degrees east to reach 180 degrees longitude from the prime meridian. You move 179 degrees west also, and you reach the 180 degrees 180 degrees meridian, which is your 180 degrees longitude. And prime meridian is the 0 degrees longitude. Equator is a 0 degree latitude. You move 1 to 89 degrees north and 1 to 89 degrees south. And 0 degrees is the extra line. 90 degrees north and south are just dots. Then you have India's position on the globe. So you can see when you take the hemispheres, India is to the north of the equator. So we are in the northern hemisphere and we are east of the prime meridian. Hence, we are in the northeastern hemisphere. Correct? This line over here this particular line is my 0 degree equator. And this line is my 0 degree longitude, the prime meridian. Places north of the equator would be in the northern hemisphere. Places east of the prime meridian would be in the eastern hemisphere. So India lies in this part, the northeastern hemisphere, right? Okay. So I give you a moment to note it down and we proceed. Then we have time zones. Now, this is a graph showing you all the longitudes, and we must keep in mind that the time zones of different longitudes will be different. So if it is 12 o'clock in one place at one point in time, at one longitude, as you go right, the time will differ. Every 1 degree of longitude equals to 4 minutes of time. If you move 15 degrees of longitude, you increase 15 into 4, 60 minutes or 1 hour of time. Time increases when you go to the east. So if it is 12 o'clock at one longitude and you move east of that longitude and you try to determine the time of a place east of a longitude, you will increase the time by the number of degrees. If you are moving 15 degrees east, you will count 15 into 4, 60 minutes. 60 minutes means 1 p.m., 12 a.m. to 1 p.m. You can see over there. And if you check moving west, then you minus that many minutes. So 15 degrees west would be 60 minutes less time. That means it will be 11 a.m. Okay, I can see someone mentioning something in the chat. Let us just look at it. Yes, perfect, Zainab ma'am. And we are also being able to see the same kind of time chart on our screens right now. As you move west, time decreases. As you move east, time increases. So, like I told you, 1 degree of longitude is equal to 4 minutes of your time. Indian Standard Time is 5 hours, 30 minutes more than the Greenwich Mean Time or the Greenwich Mean Time. So we are plus 5.5 hours ahead of the Greenwich Mean Time. In India, the distance between the westernmost point and the easternmost point is a difference of 30 degrees longitude. That means, like I showed you in this previous slide, 15 degrees longitude means 1 hour, 30 degrees longitude means 2 hours of a time gap. So if it is 8 a.m. in Gujarat, it will be 10 a.m. in Arunachal Pradesh. It's that big a time. And you can see the calculation that's done there for you. 1 degree is 4 minutes. So how many minutes would 30 degrees make? 30 into 4 divided by 1. You get 120 minutes, which is 2 hours. So you can see that in the NCERT textbook, they give you this let's explore. Two friends, one sitting in Porbandar and the other in Tinsukia, are speaking on the phone late afternoon. The one in Tinsukia remarks the sun has set in Assam and it's now dark. But the previous friend in Porbandar says, but it's still full daylight here. And then you have to explain why. So the answer is the time difference between the westernmost point and the easternmost point is of 2 hours because of the 30-degree longitudinal difference. Keep in mind, longitudes are used to calculate time. Latitudes are used to find where a place is. And here you can see this yellow thing is mainland India. This yellow place is your mainland India. This particular tip, mainland India, Cape Comorin, is at 8 degrees 4 minutes north latitude. And this part of mainland India is at 37 degrees 6 minutes north latitude. The longitudes that we have, the easternmost longitude, this one, is at 97 degrees 25 minutes east, and the westernmost longitude is at 68 degrees 7 minutes east. Mind you, though I'm calling it the westernmost longitude, it is east of the prime meridian. This is my prime meridian, 0 degrees. And India is on the east of the prime meridian. So India's westernmost longitude will also be written with the word alphabet east. Without the direction of the latitude and longitude, your answer will go incorrect. So keep that in mind. It is very important that you mention the alphabet. Now let us take a quick recap of all that we already know. Before we start with the recap, we will rejoin this meeting and then go for a quick recap.